from the young woman in exchange for the hare. What did the girl look like? Who? The girl in the locket. What did she look like? She had eyes as blue as the cornflowers, lips as red as poppies, skin whiter than milk, hair as gold as the setting sun. Okay, Grandpa, I get it. She was pretty. Am I telling the story? Oh, all right, Grandpa. You can tell the story. As the days passed, he got about getting ready for winter, but he found himself every night staring at that picture of the Duke's youngest daughter. And he found he did not find joy in the hunt and joy in gathering his items. So one day he gathered his meager belongings and the book the old woman had given him, and he set out from the forest on a quest. On the third day, during a dark rainstorm, a strange man appeared before him. He was white-skinned and tall and pale, seemed unaffected by the cold rain beating down upon him. And the man looked at him and said, "You have a book in your possession. I have been seeking it for a long time." And the boy goes, "Yes, I do indeed have a book. May I have it?" "No. What would you give in exchange for it? What is it you want?" And the boy held up the locket with a picture of the Duke's youngest daughter. "I want her." And the pale man stared at him for a moment and shook his head. "I will have to think on this." And he turned and disappeared into the rain. More days passed as the boy trekked along, and he caught the scent of a deer in the distance, and he approached for the hunt. But the stag saw him and dashed off. And Vasily gave chase through the woods. It was a long chase. But soon, as he was getting ready to make the final pounce on the deer, a blur came out of the forest, and caught the deer around the neck, and snapped the deer's neck. It was a young woman of the people, her hair fiery red, and she stared at Vasily and said, "If you had been just a little faster, it would have been you who caught the deer, and not I." And Vasily followed the young woman to her village, spent some time with the people there, and rested. But soon he set off on his quest again, driven by the image in the locket. And as more days passed and the winter came and the snows fell, the strange pale man appeared again before him, this time carrying a hefty sack, which he tossed down in front of the boy. In it overflowed with gold coins. "In exchange for the book." And Vasily looked at him and said, "I have named my price. I want her." And the man again looked at him. "I will have to think on this." And he turned and disappeared into the snow. And then soon Vasily walked more, and he finally left the forest and came to the city. And he found the house of the Duke, and he pounded on the door late at night. And the door opened, and a foppish man, strange sense and bizarre situation on your assault came before him. "What do you want?" "I seek this woman," Vasily said, pointing to a picture of the Duke's youngest daughter. "Well, come on in then." And Vasily, not being familiar with the sense of the city, and not knowing people too well, entered the house. He did not sense or smell the deception or fear coming from the man. And the man led him down into the basement and said, "You'll have to wait in the waiting room while we get the young lady ready for you. It's just right in here." And he gestured to a small room. As Vasily entered, the iron door slammed behind him, and he was trapped in the house's dungeon. He had but little food and water to him, and he measured it out carefully. And as a man of the people, it took much to kill him, but he was denied the moon, and that made him weaker. And then a light came, and the strange pale man once again appeared before him and said, "Your freedom in exchange for the book." And Vasily looked at him and said, "I am of the people. What I seek, I find. When I hunt, I take. I can hide in the shadow, my teeth sharp enough to cut bone. I run on 4 legs as easily as 2. I owe allegiance to none born, and I fear nothing. I want the woman. And the man said, very well, give me the book. And Vasily handed him the book, and the man raised him up. He took a step, and suddenly they were in the room of the Duke's youngest daughter. And there she lay on the bed asleep. And the pale man said, she dreams of traveling in a market, seeking cornflowers, but she finds only sour wine. Do you dare wake her? And Vasily walked up to the woman and stared at her, gently touched her shoulder. She awoke, startled, and looked at him. Who are you people? And Vasily looked once more at her and raised the locket and handed it to her and said simply, this is yours. Turned, looked at the man and said, I am tired and hungry. I wish to go home now. And the pale man nodded, took a step, and Vasily found himself back in his cottage deep in the woods. And thus the winter came to a close a few weeks later as Vasily began his hunt. And he sensed on his nose a familiar scent. And he looked out and saw a woman of the people in front of him in her true form. And he and his gave chase. And the hunt lasted for hours as he chased after her. But soon he caught up to her and gently took her. And their wedding, people from all over the country came. And they lived for many years happily until death finally parted. So that's it, Grandpa? That's the story? It's just a story about the people being happy with the people? No, my granddaughter. It is a story about the story, about what he saw, about why he turned away. No, you're just trying to give me some silly moral. And he shook his head. I wish you could have known your grandmother. She was an amazing woman. She knew the value of things. But she never let me forget that she had beaten me to the deer. Mr. Toastmaster.